She thought it was just a stomach bug, a simple meal under the warm sun of a foreign land, a small price for adventure, but within hours, her body began to betray her, nausea that clung to her every breath, crippling cramps that folded her in half, a fever so high, she barely recognized the face staring back at her. Help was called, doctors came, they gave it a name, something simple, something ordinary, but beneath the surface, something far more relentless had taken hold, and it wasn't letting go. This is the story of Anna Carter, a 28-year-old photographer from a small town in Oregon, a seeker of light, of color, of the untold stories hidden in crowded streets and quiet corners. Anna lived for travel, new faces, new flavors, new memories etched into the frame of her mind, and her camera. She wasn't reckless, she wasn't naive, every trip was carefully planned. Every risk calculated. In early June, with her passport stamped and her heart wide open, Anna set off for the journey she had been saving for since college, 3 months across Southeast Asia, one suitcase, one camera, endless possibilities. Bangkok, Hanoi, Siem Reap, the names whispered promises of wonder, of mystery, and for 6 unforgettable days, Anna lived those promises. She captured sunrises draped in golden mist, shared meals with laughing strangers, lost herself in markets bursting with the scent of spices and sound of life. Every moment, a dream, until the morning of the 7th day, when the dream began to unravel. It started innocently enough, a slight queasiness after a street-side lunch, a dish of fragrant noodles and sizzling vegetables served with a smile. Anna shrugged it off, a traveler's stomach, she thought. A small adjustment to a new world of spices and flavors. By evening, she could barely stand, the lightness in her head made every step feel distant, disconnected. She blamed the heat, the exhaustion from travel, maybe even jet lag, anything but something serious. She took a cool shower, sipped bottled water, forced a smile when she spoke to her family on a video call. But when the night came, something darker arrived with it. The first cramp hit like a clenched fist deep in her abdomen, stealing her breath, then another, and another. Soon, Anna was trapped in a brutal cycle, sprinting to the bathroom, collapsing onto the floor, shivering beneath the thin sheets of a hotel bed that suddenly felt so far from home. Her body refused to listen, sweat pooled on her skin even as chills racked her spine. Time blurred into an endless loop of nausea, diarrhea, and the creeping terror of losing control in a place where no one knew her name. She tried to stay hydrated, she tried to rest, but by morning, Anna could barely sit up, her tongue felt dry and heavy. Her thoughts fragmented, the vibrant city outside her window faded into a blur of sound and color. Desperate and alone, she staggered to the hotel front desk, clutching her stomach, her vision swimming in and out. An ambulance was called, sirens she barely remembered, blurred faces, a hospital room that smelled of disinfectant and heat, a language she didn't understand, and then, finally, a diagnosis. Spoken with clinical detachment, traveler's diarrhea, a label that barely scratched the surface of her suffering. Traveler's diarrhea affects up to 70% of travelers to developing countries. It's typically caused by bacteria, viruses, or parasites in contaminated food or water. For most, it's unpleasant, but manageable, but in severe cases, it can cause life-threatening dehydration within hours. Traveler's diarrhea is a stomach and intestinal infection that often affects people visiting places where the water or food may not be as clean or safe. It usually happens in areas like parts of Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America. Symptoms includes frequent loose or watery stools, stomach cramps, nausea or vomiting, fever, sometimes urgency to use the bathroom. For Anna, it wasn't just a few uncomfortable days, it was a free fall, a battle inside her body she wasn't sure she could survive. What Anna didn't know was that her case wasn't ordinary. Her infection had triggered secondary complications. an aggressive bacterial strain resistant to most first-line treatments. Every antibiotic prescribed failed. Each day, she grew weaker. Her dreams of exploration faded into desperate pleas for stability. Approximately 10% of severe travelers' diarrhea cases require hospitalization. Some cases can develop life-threatening complications, including dehydration, sepsis, or hemolytic uremic syndrome. Friends sent messages, family begged her to come home, but Anna was too sick to board a plane. Her body, once a vessel of adventure, had become a battleground. The hospital room, with its sterile walls and foreign sounds, became her world. Days blurred into nights, hope wavered, yet, amidst the uncertainty, Anna's spirit held on, seeking a path back to the life she once knew. Days blurred into weeks, the walls of her hospital room closed in, the rhythmic beeping of machines became her only company. Language barriers turned every medical conversation into a maze of fear and guesswork. Every question she asked was answered with uncertain smiles. Or no answers at all. She was a stranger, sick and silent, in a world that did not understand her pain. Fear crept in, the kind that grows slowly, quietly, until it fills every breath. At night, she would stare at the ceiling, replaying the moment she first tasted that meal. Wondering if she could have avoided this, wondering if she was being punished somehow. Her mind, once filled with plans and dreams, now obsessed over one haunting question: would she ever get home, or would her story end here, thousands of miles away from everyone she loved? Isolation is its own kind of illness. It strips away the certainty you once wore like armor. It whispers lies in the quiet. You're forgotten. You're weak. You're alone. Anna wasn't just battling bacteria anymore, she was fighting herself, and each day that passed, the fight grew harder. It happened on a night like any other, another night of restlessness, another night when the minutes dragged. Heavy and endless, Anna lay in bed, drifting between fever dreams and quiet despair. When a knock came at her door, a new doctor had arrived. His name was Dr. Liam Hayes, a visiting physician from New Zealand, volunteering at the hospital for just 1 month. He carried no clipboard, no lab results, only a warm, steady gaze and an old-fashioned leather bag. He sat by her bedside, listened, not just to her symptoms, but to her story, and when she finished, voice raw and trembling, he didn't suggest another round of heavy antibiotics, no experimental injections, no invasive procedures. Instead, he offered something so simple, it sounded almost laughable against the complexity of her suffering. Probiotics, to rebuild the battlefield inside her gut, electrolyte stabilization, to give her cells a fighting chance, strict natural hydration therapies, water purified to its cleanest form, administered carefully, lovingly, not high-tech, not flashy, just back to the basics, back to what her body was silently begging for all along. New research shows that gut flora balance plays a critical role in recovery from bacterial infections. When the natural microbiome is destroyed, patients become vulnerable, not just to prolonged illness, but to dangerous secondary complications. Anna had a choice: continue down the road of treatments that had failed her again and again, or take a chance on something unproven, something fragile, but something new. With a trembling hand, she agreed. It wasn't hope exactly that moved her to say yes, it was something quieter, something smaller, a whisper of survival, a final refusal to give up. It didn't happen overnight. There were no grand moments of sudden recovery, no triumphant scenes worthy of a movie, just small, almost invisible shifts, a flicker of strength in fingers that had once trembled too much to hold a spoon, a sigh of relief when the fever finally broke under a thin cotton sheet, the first sip of broth, warm, salty, almost sacred, after weeks of nothing but sterile fluids. Simple things. Small victories, but when you've lived in the darkness long enough, even the smallest flame feels like a miracle. Each day became a test of patience. Each sunrise that filtered through the hospital curtains felt like a quiet promise: you are still here, you are still fighting. Gone were the frantic measures, the desperate prescriptions. in their place, slow, intentional healing, and as her body mended, something else awakened too, her spirit. Recovery rates dramatically improve. When gut microbiota is restored early, hydration therapy reduces mortality in gastrointestinal infections by up to 60%. Her appetite, once stolen by sickness, returned, tentatively at first. A spoonful of rice, a slice of fresh fruit, then, little by little, she hungered for more than just food, she hungered for life itself, for the open road she had once dreamed of, for the laughter that echoed in crowded markets, for the feeling of a camera in her hands once again. As Anna sat by the hospital window, tracing the cracks in the worn glass, she realized something profound. The true enemy had not just been a ruthless bacteria, it had been something far more invisible. A blind reliance on quick fixes, a system that promised recovery with pills and procedures, but forgot about patience, intuition, and the healing power of the body itself. She thought back to those early days, when every new antibiotic was offered like a lifeline. And every failure left her drowning in despair, when conversations with doctors became numbers on a chart, and her fears were met with clinical indifference. How easily the human soul can get lost, even in places built to save it. 30% of travelers with gastrointestinal infections report feelings of medical distrust after prolonged hospitalization abroad, and yet, against the weight of it all, Anna endured, not because of a miracle drug, not because of a heroic surgery, but because somewhere deep inside, the will to live had refused to surrender, because sometimes healing isn't an act of medicine, it's an act of defiance, of believing, in the face of every setback, that tomorrow might be better. Travelers. Diarrhea may have stripped away her strength, her plans, her sense of safety, but it had also carved something new, something unbreakable: resilience, gratitude, an understanding that survival isn't measured by what you avoid, but by what you endure. Anna's story is not as rare as it might seem. Each year, millions of travelers step onto planes, chasing adventure across distant lands, and some return with more than memories, because lurking in street-side meals, tap water, and even a single unwashed fruit, are invisible threats that can change a journey, and a life, in an instant. The leading cause: bacteria, particularly certain strains of E. coli, tiny invaders ready to strike when least expected. But viruses, like norovirus, and parasites, like Giardia, also lurk in environments where sanitation isn't guaranteed. Symptoms often begin subtly: a stomach flutter here, a slight chill there. But left unchecked, these infections can rapidly unfold into relentless diarrhea, uncontrollable vomiting, raging fever, and dangerous dehydration. 30 to 70% of international travelers experience some form of travel-related illness. Dehydration is the leading cause of hospitalization among them. But there's good news. Many of these hardships can be avoided, with simple, intentional precautions. Prevention tips includes: 1. Always drink sealed bottled water, and check the seal before opening. 2. Avoid ice cubes unless you know the water source is purified. 3. Stay away from raw vegetables and fruits you didn't peel yourself. Contamination can hide where you least expect it. 4. Use hand sanitizers religiously, especially before eating, after handling money, or touching public surfaces. In the end, the most powerful tool against sickness isn't medicine, it's preparation. It's vigilance without fear, awareness without paranoia. It's the quiet, steady decisions made every day, the water you choose, the food you trust, the hand you clean, that protect the journey you dreamed of. 3 months after that first meal, that first twinge of nausea, Anna Carter boarded a plane bound for home. She moved slowly through the airport, each step deliberate, each breath a reminder of what it had taken to get here. Her body still carried the faint echoes of sickness, the weight loss, the fragility, the moments when standing too long made her dizzy, but her spirit had never been stronger. Gone was the wide-eyed girl chasing perfect photographs and bucket list moments. In her place was a woman who had faced the worst, and survived. She knew now that travel wasn't just about collecting souvenirs or checking off countries. It was about resilience. About understanding that the world is beautiful, but also unpredictable. Illness had humbled her, isolation had strengthened her, and the long, painful crawl back to health had awakened a quiet kind of gratitude, one that most people never experience until they lose everything they once took for granted. Anna didn't return home defeated. She returned wiser, more cautious, yes, but also more present, more willing to savor every healthy breath, every simple meal, every sunrise witnessed without fear. She carried no bitterness for the country where she fell ill, no anger at the twists her journey had taken, only awe at the strength hidden inside her all along. Life after sickness wasn't just about getting back to normal, it was about creating a new normal, one shaped by survival, by self-awareness, and by a deep, unshakable respect for the human body's incredible will to heal. Health isn't guaranteed, adventure isn't without risk, but sometimes, the journey that threatens to break us is the one that teaches us how to live. Anna's story reminds us that the world is beautiful, but it is not always forgiving. Beneath every colorful street market, every dazzling beach, every hidden trail, lies a thread of uncertainty, and when we step beyond our comfort zones, we must do so not with fear, but with respect. The next time you pack your bags, pack more than excitement, pack caution, pack wisdom, pack humility for the unseen risks carried in the food, the water, the air. Simple habits can be the strongest shield: washing hands, questioning what's on your plate, trusting your instincts when something feels wrong. Key traveler tips: always use bottled water, even for brushing teeth. Choose cooked foods over raw street offerings. Carry basic first aid and rehydration supplies. Know where the nearest medical facilities are located. Purchase travel health insurance before you need it. We travel to lose ourselves, to find ourselves, to see the world in ways books can't teach us. But survival, true survival, means bringing parts of home with you: knowledge, preparation, and a deep respect for the limits of the human body. Anna didn't stop traveling, she just traveled differently, smarter, wiser, more deeply connected to the fragility and the wonder of being alive. Anna now shares her story with travelers around the world, because sometimes survival isn't just about fighting harder, it's about knowing better. Every passport stamp now carries a new meaning, every meal a silent prayer of gratitude, every journey a reminder that life's greatest adventures are the ones we survive to tell. Have you ever faced a health scare while traveling? Tell us your story in the comments below. We read every single one, because every shared experience makes this community stronger. If Anna's journey moved you, if it made you think twice about what you eat, where you drink, or how you prepare, hit the like button, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to Knowledge Wise Daily Health Tips. Here we bring you real health stories that inspire, warn, and empower, because sometimes a single story can save a life.